everyone, my name's Emily and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the books I read in March. I realize that you guys have no idea what I was reading in March because I didn't do a March TBR because I didn't start my channel yet. So this is what I read in March. So I'm going to do my physical books first, and then I read 2 audiobooks that I'll tell you guys about too. The first book I got to was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. I've wanted to start the series for a long time, and I was out a couple weeks ago with my boyfriend's sister at Barnes & Noble, and I went to go pick it up, and she's like, "Don't, I have a copy of it, and if you like the series, then pick up the books." So this isn't my book, this is my boyfriend's sister's book, but she was kind enough to lend it to me, and I really liked it. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Every child had a different peculiar aspect to them. None of them had the same abilities, which I liked. And I think it helped develop the story that they didn't have the same abilities, because I feel if 2 or more had the same thing, the storyline wouldn't have gone where it did. When I was first reading the first couple of chapters, I had a very hard time understanding the world. The time loops in this book, then how they worked and how they operated. At first I had no idea, it wasn't computing in my brain, but as it went on I understood more, and now I'm listening to the audiobook of the second book and I understand them even more because they go into more detail about time loops, and I feel like the more I read the series, by the end of it I'll have a better idea of what the world is. But it kind of was hard to get through this one not knowing what the world was like. The second book I read in March was Everything, Everything by Nicola Yoon. I have not seen the movie or read the book. I wanted to, and I just the movie came out and I was busy, didn't see it. And then again, my boyfriend's little sister was like, "I have that book, you want to read it?" So this is also her copy. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. It put me on an emotional roller coaster. I could not put it down. I went from crying one minute to laughing the next to just loving the book. And I read this in less than 24 hours. And that's not typical for me. Usually when I get tired, I put the book down, I go to sleep. This one I stayed up all night reading it. I was like, no, I need to finish it. So I finished this. The ending of this book, I had no idea it was going to go that way. The plot twist was amazing. I love the plot twist. But it kind of after reading it, in the news lately, there's been a lot of the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case and what happened with all that. This gives me that vibe. Them coming for more with that. It's something that you have to read the whole book to understand. Because if I tell you now, it's going to spoil the whole thing, and I don't want to do that for you guys. Next book I read is 50 Shades of Grey. This is where my reading for the month took a downhill turn. Every book after this is a low star. I hate to tell you guys that, but it is. This is 2 out of 5 stars. I was so disappointed in this book. I hated the relationship in this book. It was so toxic, and I could see it coming from a mile away. I was like, what is this girl doing? Why? And then looking back, and there's 2 more books in this trilogy. I want to read them. I want to get through them, but at the same time, I'm dreading it. I don't want to read them, because I feel like I'm just going to be sitting there going, what is this girl doing? Why is she making these life choices? So I was just disappointed in it. It was a huge hype when I was in high school. Parents wouldn't let me read it. I wasn't missing out on anything. My mom was okay saying that I wasn't allowed to read it. Understand now where she was coming from. And it's not worth it. So if you're a young child watching this and your parents are telling you, no, don't read this, listen to your parents. It's not worth it anyway, even with all the hype. Next book I read was Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. When I was looking this up on Goodreads, it classified it as a romance. I wouldn't classify it as a romance. It has some aspects to it, but it's not until the very end of the story. Like, the book's like almost done and then you pop up and get a romance. I feel like it needed more explanation to her background in shopping addiction. Like, psychologically, I have a degree in psychology, so when books go into things like mental illnesses and shopping addictions, any type of addiction, I want to know what led to that. How did she become like this? What made her want all these designer things and not have the money for them? But also, the book made it seem like her apartment wasn't overfilling with things. Honestly, if you have a shopping addiction, your house is overflowing. Like, you're on an episode of Hoarders, basically. But I didn't get that vibe from this book. The apartment seemed really put together for me, and I don't think that's how it really would have looked. And the last physical book I read this month is the biggest disappointment to me. I just pushed myself to get through it, and I didn't want to finish it. Almost DNF'd it. And if you guys watched my last video about the newbie tag, you know that the series this book is based on is one of my favorite series. So the book I read was Life and Death, The Twilight Reimagined by Stephanie Meyer. 2 out of 5 stars for me. I didn't like it. Such a disappointment. I felt like she could have gone so many different ways with this book. She could have still had it be in Forks, or like, somewhere similar to Forks, where the vampires are good vampires and they're allowed to come out in the sun during the day and they don't hunt humans. But no, it's literally word for Twilight. Slight changes because it's a gender bent version of Twilight. And she even goes in, I'll show you guys the pages. The very beginning in the forward, she tells you the reason she changed it. This is what she changed in it. She made changes because the main character is now a boy, not a girl, which is only 5% of the changes. Another 5% were the personality changes. I didn't pick up on any personality changes. I really felt like I was in Bella's head all over again, and I don't think a boy would act the way Bella did. And 70% were made because she was allowed to do new editing. Okay, I understand that. She changed what she didn't like in the first book. Very subtle changes. Didn't notice them when I was reading. Going back, I skipped the forward when I read this book because I was like, no, not gonna read it. I already know what Twilight's about. But I came back to the end and was like, why? Why did she do this? She changed some things, but I didn't pick up on them. 10% were what she wished she had done the first time around. She went back and corrected them. Again, didn't even notice them. 5% were mythology issues, mainly with Alice's character in the very first Twilight. There were ways that Alice could have been incorporated more than she was. Kind of saw this in this book, where Archie was used more than Alice was in Twilight. And the last 5% was just catch-all, like whatever she felt needed changing. Reading this book, I did not pick up on very many of those changes. Of course, I picked up on the fact that they changed names and switched. Most of the characters were switched around, different gender roles. They were gender bent. It makes more sense, that Belle would have friends that were boys that he would talk to rather than friends that were girls. Like, in the original Twilight, Bella has Jessica. Obviously, Beau isn't going to connect the same way Bella did with Jessica. It's going to be a different relationship. Understood that. I really wish she had developed this story more and not made it the exact same story as Twilight, with the exception for the ending. She did change the ending. Because this is a standalone, not a sequel. I mean, this is a standalone, not a series, whereas Twilight is a series. So, I understand why she had to kind of make the ending different to end the book. But I was just so disappointed. I don't recommend this book to anyone who loves Twilight. If you don't love Twilight, or you're not familiar with Twilight, go ahead and pick this book up. It's good writing. It's Stephanie Meyer. But if you love Twilight as much as I do, or Twilight was part of your growing up, I don't recommend this book. The last two books I read were audiobooks. I do consider audiobooks reading because I'm still absorbing the information. I'm still learning new things. I primarily read my audiobooks when I am getting ready in the morning for work or when I'm driving to and from work, and it's not that long of a car ride, 10-15 minutes, but it's still reading. I'm just still getting some done. So the first one I read was 13 Reasons Why, and the reason I listened to this one is because I love the TV show, and I just finished the second season of it, which is not covered in 13 Reasons Why. 13 Reasons Why, the book, is just the first season of the TV show. It doesn't go past that. There is no sequel. I really wish there was a sequel because I would read it. If Jay Asher made a second book to the series, I would read it probably in 24 hours, like, obsessed. I like the fact that the book was more condensed, and I don't mean that, I mean, like, time condensed wise. The book takes place in 24 hours, whereas the TV show took place, like, over several days. There was more for them to think about. I think with it being in 24 hours, Clay's reactions were more realistic because his brain was, like, on overload. He had to act very quickly. This book would have been a 5-star for me if I didn't see the TV show first, only because I already had what the characters looked like in my head and their personalities, and, like, going into that, you don't get all the different views like you do in the TV show. You only get Clay's view in the book, which is okay. I love Clay, so it's okay that it was in his view. If I had read the book first, I would have probably given it 5 stars. Next book was Avalon High by Mike Cabot. This is a movie that I watched when I was, I think, in high school. Loved the movie when it came out. For the book, though, the movie's better. I don't often say that, but the movie's better. I might pick this up again in physical book form and read the physical form because I feel like reading the audiobook might have ruined the book for me. Really love the concept. Love that it was King Arthur reincarnated. I think it could have been written a little bit differently. Like, the way the characters interacted needed more interaction. It felt forced. The characters kind of felt forced. And then you didn't get a ton of the characters. Like, the main characters, I have no idea how they developed their relationship, because it's like, out of the blue, like, they're best friends. Like, I don't get it. That's what I read in March. Very sad month. My highest rated book was Everything, Everything. It was a 5-star, and then I had 2 4-stars, and then the rest for your under. So out of 7 books, I rated 3 of them above 3 stars. Not a great reading month, but finished it. They're done. But I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.